Yeah.
JJ and I never know the episode. Is there any possibility you know what episode we're on today?
No.
There's no chance. So you've got your host here, LeBron Palmer. At some point, I think I might need to just start using my government name because I was on Fox 26 on last week, and the lady was like, "Why did your parents name you LeBronald?" And I was like, "Why would you think that that's my actual
For the first
name?"
year or two, I didn't know.
That's like weird.
I couldn't remember his real name. I just went by LeBronald.
Why would someone think that's my actual name? You know, so to that point, I might have to start using my government. But we also have with us today
JJ Wood,
and we have a special guest. This is the celebrity of the show today for sure. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, I appreciate that introduction. James Larkin, and I'm happy to be here today.
By far the celebrity. You're not doing enough justice.
Right.
Tell everybody about yourself and all that good stuff before we get going.
Oh, wow. So let's just go golf game, right? I've been teaching and in the industry for a long time now. I specialize in kind of long-term athletic development, which is taking an athlete from a very young age all the way up through the cycle of learning to competing, and then into their 20s, and then obviously having a career, and then post-career of coaching. So it's just kind of the whole spectrum of very young youth all the way to where they would retire from competing into coaching.
And in that, what success have you found? And we're gonna talk to you more in detail at the end as we start doing some tips. But for you, do you think it makes the most sense to take someone from a young age to pro, or is it easier getting someone who's already got some skills developed?
You know, I think there's two sides of the spectrum, right? There's the recreational golfer, and then there's the I want to be an elite golfer. So first you want to find out what side the person really wants to be on. And obviously if they're younger, parent influence has a lot to do with that.
Without question.
Right. And so as you go throughout that, you never know where somebody's going to end up. Right. But with kids specifically, the last thing you want to do is you don't want to coach them like an adult. Right. It's like a kid learning how to play baseball. You wouldn't give them a glove and start throwing fastballs at them. Right. It starts at a young age. Let's try to catch a balloon. Let's get some hand-eye coordination. And you would do the same thing with golf. And then through that, you'd start to see the development of skills and movement abilities. And then you can kind of steer them along the path. And hopefully you end up on the left side, the high-performance side, the elite side, and you can push it and see how far you can go.
So you think I'm doing wrong giving my 8-year-old 8 irons out of heavy rough to get prepared to play golf, because that's what I've been doing. So
not at all.
They throw the ball down wherever his ball is in the weeds or the bunker.
So they get a lot of work out of the rough.
Exactly. Okay. So JJ, some news. We're in a new location right now.
Oh yeah, I got a new hat on.
You got a new hat on. Can you please tell the people what's been going on in the background, some things that have been happening, and also some changes that'll potentially happen to the podcast as well?
So me and James have been working a while now, I guess, on some player development stuff. And Hal Sutton, the legendary Hal Sutton, approached me about a month ago about forming a team and coming together at his location, which is like a 5-star resort compared to my, indoor.
You did a great job at your indoor, though.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest.
I had to become a handyman.
You did.
I did as much construction work as I did teaching, probably. But so we're partnering with Hal Sutton, and I'm excited because to be around a great mind in the game like that, it doesn't come, around very often. And I was lucky in college to be around a coach that, had a dad that was a major winner, and now I get to be a partner with Golf Academy.
Yeah, so
partner with one of the legends that's won a major and 2 players. So
yeah, so the Golf Academy that could and the little podcast that could is now expanding into new horizons.
It is, and we got an important name to go with it.
Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird how things happen? I remember when JJ and I even talked about that idea back at the Wildcat days.
The Wildcat.
And then I bought a studio. We started doing it there some. And then I would come up to Northgate. And then now it looks like we'll have multiple places to shoot golf content. And that's great. That is great.
Yep. So we got, here I try to have all the resources for players to get better and know how to use those resources efficiently. But here we have even more resources.
Agreed.
So, and you have, Hal that's around that can give his insight that you can't read in a textbook that makes you,
Absolutely.
And to be around that is priceless. So
now both of you though have both played pro events. So my question is, what's the gap between what Hal had? Now, granted, we know he's won majors, all of that, but what makes that difference for that level? Because y'all are great golfers, also.
Personally, I think it's mental.
Well, I was just
think
going to
it's
say,
mental
he's told us a few stories about going down the stretch against Tiger, and I didn't know, that was before even I was born, and I'm used to being the old guy these days, but now I'm the young guy. But,
I'm the old guy here.
You're besides you.
I might be the oldest besides Hal.
Yeah, now I'm back to being the youngest again.
You're back to being the youngest, okay.
But in 1983 when he won that PGA Championship, he had to stare down Jack Nicklaus at the end.
That's a fact.
And everybody knows how, well, maybe, the avid golfer knows him more than Be the Right Club, but when he beat Tiger in 2000, but the stories he told us, the conversations with Tiger, the mind games, what he was able to do to Tiger in his prime, best year of his career. Tiger's, 23 years old.
You're right.
And him to go head to head and take him down and take Jack Nicklaus down, and the mindset and what the conversations he had with Tiger when Tiger was trying to intimidate him and then beat him, it gives me chills even talking about it, because he might be the only person that stare down the two best, arguably, in the game.
Absolutely.
You can debate who's better, those two, but those are the two best ever.
Without question. Yeah.
And he was able to experience taking them both down, one time. Yeah. But he's got 14 PGA Tour wins, Ryder Cup captain. It's crazy.
3 Ryder Cups.
What'd you think, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of his wealth of knowledge and mental strength comes from the fact that he played in those two eras. He played with, the Arnold Palmers, the Jack Nicklauses, Raymond Floyd's, those guys. And then he got to play with Phil Mickelson's, Tiger Woods, and those guys. So he got to watch the game in itself change from finding fairways to really the bombers, hit it anywhere, wedge it in close. And the story that he talks about when he talks about beating Jack and then he talks about beating Tiger, you can hear the difference in the game that was played, right? He knew that he had to be 3 shots up going into hole 16 with Tiger.
Right.
Because he knew Tiger was going to get there in 2 and probably eagle.
And he hit it too low, so he couldn't hold the green, so he knew he was going to be laying up.
Even if he makes par, he knows that they have to play 17 and 18 together, where it's a different story with Jack, right? Jack, they're playing the same game. So that part of it is really cool. And I think that's where his mental strength comes from. And then, the knowledge that we get being around him on a daily basis is unreal.
It not only makes us better coaches, but the players hopefully too.
Absolutely.
And helps us, help our players. Because, it's stuff you can't learn in a textbook.
No, you cannot. And guess what? I would imagine that you all will get a chance to see Hal as a part of what we're doing with the podcast as well. So some of these stories that you all have been privy to, I would imagine we'll have a story time segment.
Yep.
I would imagine we will.
Segment, yep.
So let's get into a few little golf news things. We want to give you all a podcast today as we knew things were transitioning, some changes. The biggest transition and change in the world of golf over this previous year has been LIV Golf versus PGA Tour. The LIV Golf players were just recently overseas, getting a lot of flack from the PGA Tour players about world golf ranking points. I want to know where y'all stand as pros. Is a 54-hole event worth world ranking points, even with them having probably top 20 in the world playing in that series?
I would say, I understand the 72 hole. That's how it's always been. That's why they keep saying it's got to be 72 holes, but LIV is doing a modernized thing. So I don't know if it has to be 72 holes. I think 3 rounds is enough to determine the best player that week.
Were there world ranking points given out to the one hole, the one tournament that was played over in England?
Well, the
was
rules,
cut to 54 holes.
Well, I think Adam Scott won a tournament years back with 36 holes.
Yes, world ranking points were given.
So, I haven't thought about it much, but I think 54 holes is fine. College events are 54 holes.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think if you're looking at the world ranking
I would
points,
say majors maybe need to be 4 rounds.
right?
And
Absolutely.
but I could see regular tour events being 54 holes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think Champions Tour is doing very well with 54 holes. I think players actually enjoy that. That gives them a little bit more time to maybe spend at home after the event before they head back out on the road for the next event. I think that's one of the draws for LIV for the 54 Tour.
And I think it's a different strategy too, because for those first, you're kind of treading water, like in tournament golf. You're kind of feeling it out the first roundish,
Without question. Yeah.
But it kind of gives you a sense of urgency sooner. So
Absolutely.
maybe that will lead to more exciting golf,
Okay.
earlier in the tournament.
Let's get just actual thoughts then. LIV golf in general. James, what do you is this a disruptor, or is
Don't
this
say
a
the
problem
wrong
that
thing.
Greg Norman is just making for the PGA Tour?
So I think every professional athlete is a professional athlete, obviously, to try to win trophies, but they're also professional because they're making money. So I think you go where the money is at the end of the day.
I don't know.
But-
Well, what kind of person are you, James?
But
Are you off the
but
maybe he's not on our team anymore.
But I will say this, though. I think that it has an opportunity to maybe be welcomed and be a big part of golf if you were to do something like no world ranking points while you're playing on the 54 Tour. You can only accrue them on the PGA Tour and the DP Tour. Then once you get into that top 50, whoever hasn't played well in the 54 Tour drops out and drops back to their tour. And then it kind of becomes
So you're saying the PGA Tour turns into like a Corn Ferry Tour?
Well, I mean, if they're only playing once a month, if you can make the 54 Tour play once or twice a month and make that almost the pinnacle of where you want to get to, because obviously that's where the most money is. Until the money's matched on the other tours,
Which it won't
that's
be
where the
because
players are going to end up
the
wanting to
Makes
siphon
sense.
to.
are going to outbid them.
So you're saying
forever.
it's almost like a relegation like they do with World Cup for
Absolutely.
soccer.
Yeah.
So you've got the Premier League.
Correct.
If you don't make the Premier League, then you're in second, group, third group. Potentially those smaller countries are always trying to make it to the World Cup.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that could work. But at the end of the day, you've got the history of the PGA Tour. And at the end, that's what 54 is going up against. Right. And so when you look at that history and you look at the meaning behind you look at the meaning behind the Players' Championship trophy that we just talked about. I mean, you've had guys, Tiger, Hale, you've had players from around the world win that trophy. To make that trophy less meaningful would be a very, very tough
Agreed.
pill to swallow.
Agreed.
They need to figure something out soon because, not having all the best players in golf, it's hurting the game. It's not
definitely hurting the
both tours aren't as exciting to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So they need to, and I think Greg Norman originally was the person who originally had the idea for the World Golf Championships, right?
Correct.
So I could see like the LIV being like the World Golf Championships, and hopefully they can come to some sort of alliance.
That
So-
makes a lot of sense because then it's really an invitational like they say it is.
Yeah,
Because they're only inviting a
Yeah,
certain
'cause
number of people.
they're not having a Q school.
Exactly.
Or they've talked about it because I think that's one of the criteria is to get the World Golf ranking
Right.
points.
But
all
they're
they'd
still
have
getting
to
the
do
best
is
players
give
out of
away
college.
one spot at the
Yeah.
deal.
They're still getting the best players out of college. We talked about it before we turned on the camera. Oklahoma State,
Yeah.
number 2 player in the college, signs with LIV
And wins.
and
wins
wins.
$4 million yesterday.
So think about
Yeah.
his route that he would have had to take for the PGA Tour.
It would have been
Corn
year-
Ferry for a year.
And I don't understand why they're trying. Like the Corn Ferry Tour is never going to be a big revenue generator.
But I don't think they're doing it for
I
revenue.
feel like after was Ricky Fowler's class kind of the last that could go
And make
to
money
Q
immediately.
school and then
Yeah.
get a tour card.
Yes.
Making those. I don't see why those guys have to go to Corn Ferry.
How
right
many players play in a 54 event? How many
Isn't it
players in
still
the
It's still
48?
48.
So your odds of winning
Are great.
are much higher. than-
They have the
They've got
majority
great
of the big
players,
names
though.
now.
oh, I agree.
And I don't think Brooks Koepka is old. What is he, 31?
But I do
Golfers
think
at their prime at like 35.
But he
and
has.
JJ, you
But I'm
can-
saying those guys that they're acting like are on their way out, like Dustin Johnson.
They're not on their way
They're
out.
not
But
on.
you
they're
can
in their
definitely
prime.
attest to this. If you're not playing on a weekly basis, and in tournament play, your skills diminish in tournaments. So I do think that field is going to get weaker as they continue to just stay on that.
Depends
tour.
on the player though too. Like, cause like for example, when I was in college and we play like 4 weeks in a row, I noticed like week 3 and 4, I would get like my game was starting to go down because I didn't have time to work on it.
Fatigue.
Yeah,
but you could take a week off and then get back. So that's 2 weeks, week off, 2 weeks, week off. I mean that gets into periodization, and you can do that. I think if you're only playing in a tournament once or twice a month, I mean, I know playing in section events, it's like, okay, I got to gear myself up for a while just to.
Well, I'll play in anything like a money game just to get ready because we have like 2 months and a month and a half, right? But I think the one thing LIV really needs to do, because I like their concept, but no one understands the team thing. Like
they'll
you have
figure that
different
out.
players on different teams. Like
I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah,
but they'll figure that out because
I don't think. Well, maybe just follow college golf. Like,
but you have to at least at the beginning, and LIV this is where they're at. They've still got rotating groups of the 48. Once they determine these are our 48 for a year, then the team thing will make sense to all of us because there won't be any changes. Because right now, one time Koepka is the captain and it's him and his brother. Then the next time it's DJ's the captain and Koepka's on. Like it's weird.
Right.
So once they figure out that these are our 48, we know we're going with them for a year. There's no other invitations made. Then that's when the
have y'all watched the 54 event?
I have.
Yeah, I watched on
YouTube.
I haven't watched one.
No,
it's actually pretty slick production.
I don't like their leaderboard really, but maybe it's just a different culture.
Your eyes are gotta get trained.
Or maybe I'm just trained to look at it a certain way.
But their video footage is better than the PGA Tour already.
I think it's,
is that because there's not a lot of people out there and they can get everywhere with cameras?
They have every camera, and they do the what's that called where you shot tracer almost every shot.
Yeah,
like every shot.
Okay,
so that helps.
I think that has to do.
And I think there's a lot more fan involvement. There's more exciting stuff.
I mean, there are people chugging beers.
It's more like a sport.
I have gotten into the back off challenge that I've seen. Have y'all seen the back off?
No, what is that? What is that?
Reels. It's where they're on a par 3 or they're standing over shot, and then there's a group of guys talking as much smack as possible to the player, trying to get them to back off.
We've got to do that.
It's awesome. I saw one with Ian Poulter, and I don't remember everything that was said, but it was great. And then Ian Poulter, he made a comment and then hit the shot and then just turned and looked. Ball lands 5 feet from the pin. He goes, "I'm not good."
When are we doing the back off challenge? When are we doing it? When are we doing it?
We can do it on this putt view right here.
We got it. We need
absolutely.
So be prepared for us to do that here. You may even see some content out this week. All right, before we wrap, people are going into the fall, a little cooler weather. You don't have to be, at least in Houston, you don't have to worry about sweating immediately as soon as you get out of your car before you get to the range. Other parts of the country, we know where you guys listen or watch us at. You already may be cold. What is one recommendation? JJ, we've heard from you a number of times, so we'll go to our new correspondent. What's a recommendation you would give someone for some inside golf that'll be happening here soon?
Oh, definitely pivot drill.
Okay.
Arms crossed shoulders, set up in golf posture, make a backswing, and then rotate through. I think the more you work on your balance and your pivot and posture, the better you're going to hit the ball.
And that's one thing Hal did tell us, which I think we just didn't really think about it. But without balance, you have nothing. So that's the number one,
absolutely
skill that you need to have in your golf swing before anything else.
Yeah, I think the body is the engine, the arms are steering wheel.
Well, yeah,
you work on that pivot. This will start to steer it the way you need it.
And my only recommendation would be to learn, know what a correct pivot is.
Oh, absolutely.
Usually with a new student, it's like 3 or 4 or 5 corrections before they actually get the right motion. So
yeah, rib cage rotation around the spine. The more you can practice that at home in posture in front of a mirror so you can see the way you're moving, the better.
So explain why the mirror then? Because what are you doing?
Back, make sure you're doing it right.
Yeah, but what if you're doing it wrong even in the mirror?
Well,
how will we know?
That's your coach. Your coach should show you this is the proper movement. This is how you're going to move. So we learn 3 ways.
And we have a new app coming out that'll help you.
Well, we learn audibly, visibly, and kinesthetically by moving.
Yep.
Audibly, we only learn 5% through hearing. So the rest of it is by seeing and by feeling. So once your coach shows you, or once you look at video and you're like, okay, this is the way my body should move without my arms, then you can actually sit in the mirror and you can put in the work and make sure that you're moving that way.
Nice.
That way you're seeing it, and then close your eyes and do it. And then when you get out to the driving range,
your eyes, that's really taps in.
Helps you out. Yeah. And then I got a little tip for everybody as well before we wrap. When it's getting a little cooler, switch to Scotch. There's a Scotch called Port Charlotte. I encourage everyone to go find that. I'm sure it's like at Total Wine or etc. Incredible. It is great for when you're shooting 98, and you won't be mad at yourself when you leave the golf course. So, anything else before we leave?
That was good enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's episode whatever of To Be Named Later.
Golf
Thanks for having me
Performance Podcast. Is that what we were?
Well, to be named later as changes are happening. We appreciate y'all joining us. We'll talk to you later.